Hello everybody, welcome back to Point Zero Games. My name is Josh.
And I'm Patrick.
And today we are going to be taking a look at BattleCon Devastation of Endines. This is a board game from Level 99 Games. Patrick, you picked this up at WayCon recently that we went to. How much does this cost? What all do we get with the box?
This product costs $75, believe it or not. I know that sounds expensive, but really you get more than what's pictured. There's an entire box of very, very sturdily made tokens, much like these, and it's just chocked full of them. It is a board game that simulates a 2D fighting game like Tekken, Street Fighter, Marvel vs. Capcom, what have you. But you don't just get that. You get the 1v1, a 2v2 tag team game mode, a 2v1 boss mode, and a 4-player, 1 Dungeon Master dungeon crawl mode as well.
So you definitely get value in the box.
You get 4 games for the price of 1, and it is never boring. I have played it probably about 9 hours in total for now. I haven't even gotten through all the characters yet.
Alright, so for all intents and purposes for today's video, we are going to be showing you how to play the primary mode of BattleCon, which is the 1v1 fighting mode. So the things that you're going to need in order to play that mode itself will all be in the box. And as far as the characters we're going to be using, there are 5 flights of different characters that you can end up using. We're going to be focusing on the first flight, which is going to be most of the introductory characters. The other ones get way more complex, and you know, by all means, if you want to pick the game up, play around with those, go for it. But for today's purposes, we're going to be using 2 of the base starting characters to show the game off to you guys.
And yes, every single one of them is unique and plays completely different than the others.
Very differently, and it definitely focuses on all the types of things you would find in a fighting game. For instance, you have characters that are, you know, very hefty, very tanky, have to be up close. There's characters that focus on zoning you out. There's characters that focus on manipulating the board, nothing but movement. So it's definitely worthwhile to sit around and play as many of the characters as you can, so that way you can find what playstyle fits for you. So for the video today, I'm going to be using King Alexian the 37th. He's very much a tankier character that needs to be in close to be able to do things. Patrick, who have you chosen?
I have chosen, well, let me see his full name here. It's right here. You get a card that actually goes over your character with every single one. It is Eligor Larrington, the successor to Saint Calibran.
Okay, so...
Hell of a title.
So, what you'll need for each character to be able to start playing. First of all, you have these 3 cards. This is going to be your main card that tells what special components your character has in order to play the game. For instance, with King Alexian, we have these things called chivalry tokens that we give to our opponent whenever we hit them, and they can use these in what's called the anti-pile, which we'll show later, to gain some benefits. Next, you'll have your ultimate card. This is a 2-sided card. This is going to be once you reach 7 or lower life, each player gets 20 life. Once you get to 7 or lower, you can use your ultimate card as kind of a big hit move. It's considered your finisher. And last but not least, we have what's called the reference card. This is not something that you'll keep. This is actually something that you'll give to your opponent. And that card itself gives them all the information on your character's styles. So Patrick, give us a rundown of styles and bases. What are those, and why do we need them?
Alrighty. Just like every character in a fighting game, we'll start with this reference card here for as an example. You can hit start, see any character's moveset in any modern fighting game. Now, your styles and your bases are your quarter circle, forward, punch, stuff like that. You combine these 2. Now your styles, those are unique to the characters. They'll have your character's portrait on there, and usually have his theme with it. Alexian here has stun guard across pretty much every single pretty much every single card. So he's really hard to stun, but you'll also notice he's relatively low priority. Now your bases, those are the movement and the strikes. You've got dash, strike, grasp, drive, shot, and burst. Now, what you do is you combine a style and a base. They don't have to match color or type. As long as they pair up, you'll notice this thick black border going all the way around. You can play those 2 as a battle pair or a combat pair. And that is really the meat of the game right there, is matching up these cards in order to move about the field here and eventually do damage to your opponent. On the cards, it breaks down what you're supposed to do every turn. The turns are called beats, and we're going to go into beat sequence here in just a second. The last card is the special attack card. This is your finisher. However, it's also your cancel or your pulse, which are your two strongest defenses against a big finisher coming at you. We'll get into that later in the game as well. But really, while it looks complex, it's very simple once you get into it. So we're going to move straight into generalized setup. He's going to grab all of his styles and all of his bases, but you'll notice that 4 of these cards have a little number on the bottom. There's 2 with a number 1 and 2 with a number 2. He's going to take those and place them here in his discard piles.
Now, a thing to note about the discard pile is that it doesn't matter if you put pile 1 or pile 2 in any specific one, so long as you remember which discard pile is your discard pile 1, because you'll be rotating these out as you lay attack pairs during the game. So you need to always make sure that you remember which way you are rotating all of those cards.
For all you video game players out there, everything's on a 2-turn cooldown.
So,
think of it that way.
Let's grab some cards and let's play. Here's your reference card.
Here's yours, sir.
All right. Now, the way that you start the turns is by getting all of your pairs into your hand. This is your styles and your bases. A couple of things to point out on the board here. First of all, you have your 2 playable characters. There are 2 dots on the board. This is where you'll start. These 2 squares are not considered squares where you can actually place your character. Consider these to be stoppers that don't allow you to go any further past them.
The invisible wall.
These 2 piles are what's called the ante-pile. So at the beginning of any given turn, after you've set attack pairs, you can ante up tokens based off of whatever it says that you can do to get those additional benefits added to them. Note that some characters, such as Eric, will actually have tokens that they'll ante to stop things from being able to happen. So you just have to make sure that you know what those tokens are going to be doing.
And utilize your reference card that your opponent gives you, so you can actually kind of make a formulated guess against what they might come at you with. For example, at the beginning of the game, I know that he's got Grasp and Regal out, and I know he's got Gestalt and Dash out, which means I know it cuts a lot of his priority and a lot of his movement. So I could actually pick a low priority pair to start off with to try to get some initial damage in. But if I call it wrong, he could just wreck my face in.
That is one of the really nice things about this game, is it gives you every inch of information that you need about your opponent in order to be able to make the most informed decision to make the battles actually feel really close.
One last note. When you're looking at some of these character cards and some of their attributes, you might go, wow, this guy's broke as all get out. Well, there is a balance system in the game. Everybody is overpowered. Every single character is ridiculous. And that is the balance system.
Okay.
So if you see some crazy stuff, then just know your opponent can do crazy stuff as well.
Okay. So at the beginning of the duel, because I'm playing King Alexian, my opponent gets a chivalry token immediately, and then every time that I hit him, he will get a chivalry token. What tokens are you using on your character?
I'm using vengeance tokens. Eligor gets vengeance tokens, and every time he takes damage, he gets vengeance tokens equal to the amount of damage he takes.
Okay.
Right? At the beginning, I can ante them, right? For every one that I ante, I get stun guard 2. But if I ante 5, I get stun immunity.
Excellent. So we have what's called the beat sequence, and this is actually shown on the board for each player, just so that way you can have a reminder of what your steps are. So at the beginning of the step, we're going to have to set our attack pair. Remember, that's where we're going to take a style and a base, put them together, we lay them face down onto the board, and you'll be able to tell because the styles have a red backing, while the bases have a blue backing. So we'll place 2 cards down onto the board. When we have both declared that we've set our attack pairs, we flip them over, and then we compare a couple of different stats on that, and we'll break that down in a moment for you. So I'm going to play this and this. All right. Now, me and Patrick have a thing that we like to do.
Well, first and foremost, anti-step.
Yes. Anti-step, sorry.
I will ante 1 chivalry token. That gives me +1 power, +1 priority.
So Patrick and I have a thing we like to do when we flip the cards over. We stare at each other intently like we're Japanese samurai, and then we say the name in a bad Japanese accent.
It's pretty terrible.
Here we go. Ready?
Chain drive.
Mighty burst. Even Jacob got it. All right, so the first thing we're going to look at when we look at these cards is priority. Each of these have 3 different values: range, power, and priority. You're going to take this number, add it to this number, and that's whatever your total for the attack pair will be. I have 2 priority.
I have 3.
Which means that he is now the active player on the turn. He actually is sitting at 4 because of the chivalry token. So when you are the active player for the turn, that means that when we get to the active attack step, he will do his attack turn first, and then if I'm not stunned, I'll be able to have a reactive attack phase. But right now we're going to be doing the reveal attacks phase. So a couple of things that are on the card. We have what's called reveal, start a beat, before activating, after activating,
on hit, on damage.
On hit, on damage, end of beat. It's a lot of stuff to take in. But again, since you have the beat sequence here, it's really easy to go down that step by step and make sure that you're getting all of those done in the right priority. Also remember, this isn't like magic. You don't have a stack, which means that if something is before activating and you have 2 before activating effects that would say make you move forward, you can choose just one of them and not both of them. It doesn't matter. Now, since reveal attacks doesn't take any form of priority, all of that happens at the same time. Do you have any reveals?
I do not.
Any starter beats?
No.
Okay, I do. Nearest opponent ignores the range modifier on his style this beat. You have no range modifier, so it doesn't matter. Also, at the start of the beat, I get to retreat 1 or 2 spaces. The way movement works, retreat always moves backwards. And if it says 1 or 2 spaces, you can only move 1, you can only move 2. If it says move up 2, you can move within that range. If it says advance 3, you have to advance 3 or as far as you can go. So for this sake, I'm going to retreat 1. And then we are in the active attack phase. So now it is your turn.
So I would go to before activating, right? Because I have priority. So before activating, I can discard any number of vengeance tokens to pull the opponent 1 space per token discarded. I'll toss 2 tokens.
Okay.
Right? Which means he's going to get pulled 1, 2.
Pulling is always towards you yourself.
But you can pull past.
Yes.
Now, drive also has a before activating. It allows me to advance up to 1 or 2 spaces. So I can go 1, 2. Right?
All right.
Now after that we check range. I have a range of 1. I am in range. Damage. 3 damage.
3 damage, however, he has the chivalry token, which means it'll actually be for 4 damage. Now, I have what's called Soak and Stun Guard. I have a Soak 1 and a Stun Guard 2. Soak is how much damage you will negate being dealt to you. And then Stun Guard is an amount of damage that you can take without being stunned. Since he would be dealing 3 damage to me because I have Soak 1, I'll take 3 damage on my life counter. However, since I'm only Stun Guard 2, it means that 1 point of damage will get through and I'm now stunned, which means I have no reactive attack phase. So that's the end of his attack phase. My attack phase would come up. I don't have one because I'm stunned. Now what we do is we look for end of beats. We have no end of beats. So now we cycle our discard pile. So you'll take your style and your beat, you'll move them into the discard pile. Always make sure that you're rotating the proper way to get your first discard pile.
Because you want it.
Exactly. And then at the end, also, any anti-tokens will end up going out of the field. And then you start a new turn. It's a fairly simple and straightforward process to go through. Is there anything that we haven't covered just quite yet? Oh, another portion of movement. Because I think that's really the only thing other than a finisher that we haven't shown. So as far as movement, let's say that I as King Alexian had a card that said advance up to 1 or 2 spaces, but I have an opponent here. When you can move through a character, but it's not 1, 2. You are always jumping over the character. So think of it like Ken being an idiot and jumping over somebody while trying to low kick and then screwing that up. So you can always move through a character, but do remember that once you've switched sides, pull would go towards you, retreat would always go behind you. I think that's it.
That is pretty much it, other than a finisher.
Yeah.
When you use a finisher, it's pretty simple. You look at your two-sided card. You pick one at the beginning of the game, right? So let's say I go with, that sounds ridiculous, so I'm going to say Sweet Revenge, because the other one is Sheet Lightning. And
oh, whatever, okay.
Yeah. So, Sweet Revenge. Let's say that King Alexian actually did something and knocked me down below 7 health, which is not hard to imagine at all whatsoever because the guy hits like a truck. I'm at 6 health. Now I can use my finisher. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick an attack pair. But instead of having a style, which is normally red, I'm going to use my special action card. Now he's going to lay down an attack pair as usual, but he might not know that it's coming. So when we flip, instead of that, I will just go like this.
Once the special action card has been used, it's taken out of the game for the remainder of the time, and when you bring your ultimate in, you do not have this available to you, but this will go into your discard pile. The finisher will just be removed from the game. And once that finisher is used, there are a couple of ways to interact with it. Another portion of your special action card is also called the cancel. Now, with all of these, it'll tell you next to it what card you have to pair it with. So, in order for him to actually use his ultimate, he has to pair it with a strike, a drive, or a unique. Each character does have a unique base that they come with, which I actually don't have my unique base, Patrick.
Sorry.
It's okay. So you would have to pair it with a unique, a strike, or a drive to use that. For the cancel, you would have to pair it with a grasp or a shot base. And then with the pulse, you would have to pair it with a burst or a dash base. The cancel base would allow you to actually force the opponent to place their attack pair into discard pile 1 before any reveal effects. So it actually happens before the entirety of the beat. And then both players would actually set down new attack pairs. The final portion would be pulse. That one allows you to negate an opponent's activation this beat. So it means that if they have any form of before activate or after activate, they would not be able to use any of those moves. Also, you don't advance your time dial, otherwise known as your life dial. So if you're hit, you wouldn't actually take any damage. It wouldn't advance whatsoever. And finally, you rearrange the board however you wish. So you could actually just split everybody apart. You could bring them together however you ended up wanting to play that out. And that's it. That's BattleCon. That is the 2D fighting mode. I thought this was going to take longer.
Well, normally we take 30 to 60 minutes to kill each other. But, I mean, when you're only explaining one turn, stick around. Maybe we'll charge up the camera again and actually play an entire round out.
Indeed. But for the time being, that's it. Make sure you guys hit subscribe, like, comment, and share the video with everybody that you possibly can. Stick around for more. I'm Josh.
I'm Patrick, and please remember to have fun.
Indeed. Have a great day.